You know, this offseason is a very important one for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and one of those things that they have to most definitely take care of is certain positions on this team. When you look at the team right now, even heading into free agency, it's not as stacked or as great as it once was a couple years ago.
No, it's not. You know, this is Colbert's last offseason for the Steelers. It will be his last draft for the Steelers, so it's going to be interesting to see how he goes out, hopefully with a bang. You know, Steelers already have defensive coordinator locked down with Terrell Austin officially being promoted as expected. They still have yet to go after an O-line coach as of this recording. They're still searching for potential GMs after Kevin Colbert. So they're going around making moves. Of course, you know, once that's finalized, they're gonna go after the roster itself. You know, free agency will be here in a month's time. And there will be a lot of free agents for the Steelers side. Hopefully they bring in some guys that can actually fill in some of the positions that we're going to talk about today. Positions that the Steelers must focus on this upcoming offseason. Very important positions. We're going to label it down to two
categories, really. One's primary of positions that they must focus on, that they have to make top priority. And one is secondary, where they have to make sure that they take care of those positions as well.
Right. So we're going to start with the primary, obviously, and number one is, to no one's surprise, offensive line. The O-line is atrocious. We know this. In my opinion, last year it was the worst line in the league, and that's thanks to the Steelers and the Steelers front office and the coaching, because they did little to honestly nothing to improve the O-line. They absolutely band-aided the situation. They knew O-line was a serious need. DeCastro and his injuries, Pouncey retiring, you had Villanueva leave, you had Fielder leave.
They basically band-aided the situation. You know, they brought back Zach Banner, who has very to little starting experience, and he suffered a torn ACL, but they brought him back on a $9 million deal for 2 years, to which he never started one game last year.
No, he barely played. And then, obviously, due to his injuries, that prolonged pretty much halfway through the season.
They had to put Chucks back at right tackle and started a fourth-round rookie and Dan Moore at left tackle, who I think will be the long-term starter, which I think they will keep him and see how he works, because as the season went on, slowly but surely, Moore did get better at left tackle.
Right.
So I think left tackle's fine for the most part.
I agree. Same thing with left guard, right guard, wherever you want to put Dotson, because I think those two guys will be a young, nice core guys for this line. And then you drafted Kendrick Green in the 3rd round, who was a guard at the college level, and then transitioned him to center, which honestly didn't succeed whatsoever. And then DeCastro was released due to injuries.
And then we brought in Trey Turner for a year, to which he didn't help one bit.
No, he didn't, but he was the best option at that point.
So basically,
they did nothing to improve
They
the line.
band-aided the situation. The offensive line was horrible. It did not get better week by week.
Even though they drafted Najee in the 1st round, and they knew they had an aging, immobile quarterback coming back for one more year.
They neglected the situation, but this time around, they have to make that number one priority over quarterback, in me and Danny's opinion. We've been very, very vocal and very outspoken about that since the season ended.
And will remain so heading into the draft. And probably after the draft, depending on what happens. But O-line has to be the top priority. You have to get a right tackle, in my opinion, because Chucks will be a free agent, and the fact he started the last 3 years, for the most part, he's going to want starter money, and I don't know if we can afford that for someone that hasn't done that great. He hasn't done bad either, but I think it's time to move on from Chucks.
I agree. He's been very subpar, and I think some team will definitely give him the money that he's probably looking for.
You have to get an additional guard. You could draft one. You could pick up a free agent. I'd move Dotson back to right and pick up a left guard. And then you obviously need to get a center.
You most definitely need to get a center. We do not have one true center. Our best center right now is C.J. Hasenauer. But are you going to trust him all season? Absolutely not.
No, you need a true center to replace Pouncey. And then, obviously, I'd move Green back to guard and have him battle for the left guard position.
And that's the thing. You have him battle, because the thing about Green last year when he was transitioned to center, he was literally gifted the job. He did not compete for it.
He did not.
So he didn't have the mentality like, I have to bust my ass. I have to get better. I have to win this position out. He was gifted the job. If you're going to move him back to guard, which I believe they will, you have to make the guy fight for it. Like, this is the reason why we drafted you. That experiment didn't work, but now we're going to experiment you back at guard. But this time around, you got to bust your ass. You got to show us why we drafted you.
Exactly. As that's what should happen. You know, they have to prioritize O-line. Mostly, this upcoming offseason, in free agency, in the draft. They have to boost it.
Especially with a running back like Najee Harris that you drafted in the first round last year.
And if we're going to be a run-heavy team, you got to build the line for Najee, because most of his yards last year came off because of him. He created yards for himself.
Yeah, he had exactly 1,200 rushing yards behind that offensive line.
It's
you give him a good O-line, Jesus Christ, good luck.
I know. I mean, Najee was a godsend. What he did last year was a miracle, honestly. But you have to build a line, especially depending on what you're going to do at quarterback. You have to build a line. There's no questions asked.
Of course.
You have to build a line from left guard all the way to right tackle, honestly, because I think Moore's going to lock down left tackle. I would move Dotson back to right guard, and you just need to focus on an additional guard, a center, and a right tackle.
Of course.
Via free agency, via the draft. You have to build it. No questions asked.
Another position that they have to focus on primarily, at least in me and Danny's opinion, is actually middle linebacker.
Yeah, I think everyone can agree on this because Bush was very underwhelming last year, and that might have been due to his ACL injury he suffered in 2020, and it's still nagging him. I don't know if they're going to even extend his fifth-year option. If they're going to
pick up his fifth-year option.
I don't know if they're going to exercise it. And Colbert, he could be a cap casualty because he's getting paid too much to do little, unless we give him a contract restructure, which is very possible, especially if we retain Omar Khan. But I don't know, man. Would you keep Colbert for that price? I don't know. He could be a cap casualty. And thus,
I mean, and just in general, would you keep the same pair of starting middle linebackers? Because last year didn't do any favors for the defense whatsoever.
No, they didn't. Now
they did little to nothing.
Now the D-line was very atrocious as well, outside of maybe a few guys, but the linebackers did nothing to help the run game whatsoever.
No, they didn't.
Very little effort from both guys, honestly.
So middle linebacker, when you're trying to think of the long-term solution or long-term favor, it's something you definitely got to think about. You definitely have to consider. You
have to pick up a second inside linebacker opposite Bush, because Bush is not leaving, nor should he. I'd give him one more chance. I guess a one final chance, I suppose, for Bush, because he's coming into the final year of his rookie contract if he is not given the fifth-year option exercise.
Right.
And Colbert, again, could be a cap casualty. Behind him, Spillane should be back. Marcus Allen should be back, but
I know we still got fourth-round rookie Buddy Johnson.
Right.
But those guys are nothing but backups for the most part. Like, would you really trust them to be starters right now?
Not right now. So the Steelers have to pick up an inside linebacker at some point. I'm going to assume during the draft, because it is a very deep inside linebacker class. They picked a good time to finally focus on inside linebacker this year, because it's a deep class this year in the draft.
Yes, it is.
Very deep, a lot of great talent, a lot of guys that speak Steeler to you. They have to definitely prioritize inside linebacker at some point during the draft. I'd say within the first 2 days, in my opinion.
I have to agree. I really do.
Because, we have yet to replace Shazier. We trade up for Bush, and we like to trade up. It costed us very little, honestly. And I still like Bush's potential, but he's not a Shazier.
No, he's nowhere near close to Shazier. The only thing he's got of Shazier is that speed.
Right.
Which is something that you need in a linebacker, now, of course. I'm not denying that.
When you look back at Shazier's career and you think of the caliber player he was a rare breed. He was very rare. He had all the tools, man, when he was fully healthy. Unfortunately, what went down, and we have yet to truly replace that core inside linebacker guy. I guess that quarterback of the defense guy.
Yeah. The guy that can make plays literally out of nowhere, because that's something Shazier possessed.
Right.
Like you said, he was a rare breed.
So inside linebacker, we gotta pair someone opposite of Bush. Definitely help out Bush for sure, and someone that can be a core guy for the long term, for sure. And same thing could be said for cornerback, because we know Hayden and Witherspoon and Millette are all free agents. I can anticipate at least one of those guys being back. The hope is Witherspoon. Yeah. We don't know that. Other than that, our depth we're looking at next year is Cam Sutton, Trey Norwood. We're looking at James Pierre and Justin Lane, if I'm correct. I think that's about it. So our corner core, at least looking at it now, as of right now, before free agency hits, before we resign anyone, if we do, is pretty weak.
Very weak. I mean, we don't have a true number one.
We do not. So corner is going to have to be a position that the Steelers are definitely going to have to focus on and lock down because we all know the years prior, before Hayden came here. I mean, I don't want to go down memory lane.
Oh, dude, I had nothing but nightmares.
It was atrocious. Those days were absolutely garbage, and I don't want to go down that path again. I really don't. Please, God, no. Those were some awful years, man. But corners is a position the Steelers are going to have to focus on to get a number one opposite of Sutton if they do think Sutton will remain as the outside guy. That could be someone in free agency. We have hopes. That could be someone in the draft. Corner is another position that's pretty deep this year. So I know the Steelers' resume for drafting corners is not great, and that does fear the hell out of me.
But this time around, like you said, cornerback is pretty stacked for the most part.
So for the defensive side of the ball, middle linebacker and corner, they picked 2 good years to have to focus on those positions because in the draft, very young, very deep. So that's a good part.
That's a very good part.
But those are positions the Steelers are primarily going to have to focus on is O-line for sure, via free agency and the draft, middle linebacker and corner. Got to lock down those positions, without a doubt.
Without a doubt, man. You got to make sure those positions are great.
Now on to the secondary positions. And yes, we do put quarterback as a secondary position. I know Ben retired, and we're going to need a quarterback at some point. I'm not going to rush quarterback.
Now, I'm not going to deny, I'm not going to lie. There is a ton of talent at quarterback when it comes to the draft. You guys already know the names. I don't have to go down the list. There's a bunch of talent. There's a bunch of upside. But when you look at the team now and what we've discussed, we still have a ton of other positions that we have to fulfill and take care of to a point. I'd be okay with putting quarterback on the back burner. I'd be willing to wait.
I would as well. You know,
I wouldn't rush quarterback.
We said it during the season. We're going to say it after the season. Going into the draft, we have to focus on everything around quarterback, and then you get your guy because those are the positions that we have to focus on primarily.
And in free agency, you can bring in a decent gap quarterback. That could be a Marcus Mariota. That could be a Teddy Bridgewater.
That could be a Trubisky. That could be a Jacoby Brissett. That could be anyone out there.
Or you can honestly give Mason or Haskins the opportunity, you know, a true opportunity since they know they will be given that shot since they don't have to back up Ben anymore.
Right. So
I'd be willing to give those guys the opportunity. I'd be willing to see what they can potentially do, how long they can run with this brass ring.
And that's why we have quarterback as a secondary position the Steelers have to focus on. They could very well draft quarterback in the first round. I could totally see it. The Steelers are showing a lot of interest in a lot of guys at mobile. It'll be interesting to see what they do at the Combine and the Pro Days.
And that could very well depend on what they do when it comes to us resigning our own guys and free agency.
Absolutely.
That really all depends on what happens in free agency first.
All that will tell the tale for the draft. But that's why we have quarterback as a secondary position because we got to focus on everything around quarterback first. But still get a guy, I would say, in free agency to battle with the guys we have on the roster now. A guy like a Mason, a guy like a Haskins. You know, I'm looking at this year, this upcoming season, as just a gap quarterback type of year. But still be competitive in that realm.
Yeah, oh yeah, man. Mike Tomlin, I mean, just remember 2000 and then, what was it, 2019?
19 when he had Mason and Duck, and they went 8-8, damn near made the playoffs. So if they pick up a free agency guy, I think they can still remain competitive if they build everything around it. So that's why we have it as a secondary position. Another position that the Steelers definitely secretly have to focus on is a running back 2, a second running back, someone that can be reliable behind Najee. We have struggled with a number 2 running back for, honestly, years, ever since we had James Conner when he was the number 2. But even when he was the number 2, he didn't see a lot of time on the field.
No, we continuously kept feeding Le'Veon Bell the ball and ran him into the ground.
And we all know when Bell left, Conner stepped up. Great story. We still didn't really have a number 2.
No, we didn't.
Because we relied on day 3 bums like Jalen Samuel, Benny Snell, Anthony McFarland.
Kalen Ballage.
Guys that didn't work out.
No, not one bit.
Guys that totally just did not fit the bill at running back 2.
And when it comes to Najee Harris being our number 1 running back for years to come, I'd hope so, you don't want to run him into the ground.
No.
Whatsoever.
He's about to turn 24 years old in a month's time from now. 24 years old. He already got 400-plus carries this year. I am not comfortable giving that guy 400-plus carries every single year.
No. That's going to wear him down. That's going to turn him into another one of these running backs that's going to hang it up by age 27. And I don't want that happening.
No, especially since you drafted the guy in the first round. So I'm looking for a guy that can rotate with Najee and still be productive on the field. None of these guys we have on the roster now, they're not going to cut it. They haven't cut it. I'm not impressed with any of these guys. So I'm going out my way in free agency, not the draft. I'm done with these day 3 bums. In free agency and grabbing a second running back behind Najee that can rotate. The only issue is, will Tomlin actually rotate his backs? He's always been the guy that's run the guy into the ground. Run it until the wheels fall off, as he says. I would hope they go out their way and get a second running back to help Najee because, again, I'm not comfortable giving the guy 400-plus carries a year.
Honestly, I would probably put down the candidate as a primary.
You could.
Because if Najee goes down, you can kiss that running game goodbye. You can kiss that offense goodbye because there's nobody else that's going to really move the chains than Najee.
You're right. You're very right.
So number 2 running back has got to be a big position you got to fill as well.
Especially if we are going to be a run-heavy team heading into a post-Ben era.
For sure. Get back to the old school ways where you always ran the ball, where you're always effective.
Edge depth. Now, I know we have Taco Charlton. He should be back. He could be back. But opposite of Taco, who do we got? Nobody. Our edge depth last year was atrocious after Melvin Ingram forced his way out.
Yeah, I mean, we had Taco, we had Derek Tuska.
We had Jameer Jones at one point start a game opposite of Ingram.
And let's not forget, we also drafted an edge guy in the 6th round.
Quincy Roche.
To which he didn't make the team. He's now with the Giants, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
I haven't followed up, but I'm still upset they released a guy like Roche who could have been your primary edge rotational guy for years to come.
For 2 guys that are not even on the team anymore.
No. I like Taco. I'd bring him back as a number 3 guy, but I'd still also bring in an additional guy just to battle or to boost up edge depth overall. Wide receiver. Wide receiver is going to be a position the Steelers are going to have to look at because we all know Juju's a free agent, James Washington's a free agent, and Ray McLeod is a free agent. I see maybe 1 or 2 of those guys returning. We all know James Washington is out of Pittsburgh. It's not even 1 foot out the door. He's legit. He slammed the door.
Yeah, he's gone.
Like, he is gone, man.
He hinted that when he requested a trade last year.
Yeah. So
Washington is gone.
James Washington's gone. I don't know about Juju.
That's anybody's guess. That's literally anybody's guess.
He could be back. He could. He obviously entertained offers last year. He's definitely going to entertain more offers this year for sure.
That could very well determine who our quarterback is or how he feels about our new wide receivers coach, Friesman Jackson, who we signed to be our new receivers coach. That depends on how he feels about what the team's doing and how he feels if he wants to stay in Pittsburgh again. It really all depends on all the scenarios right there.
I don't know if Juju's coming back, man. I truly don't, and I'm sure Ray will be back for obvious reasons. But outside of that, you're looking at Johnson, Claypool, Ray. If Ray's back, we could lose all 3 guys.
We could very well lose all 3 guys.
So,
and the 3 guys that we got now is obviously Deontay, Claypool, and Cody White.
So who the hell do we have at receiver? Nobody. Nobody behind the top 2 starters.
No. We wouldn't have a true number 3, depending if those 3 guys leave. And wide receiver depth in general is just very lackluster.
Yeah. Now, whatever the Steelers do with receiver, I do trust them because receiver is one of the top positions the Steelers have always succeeded at. The resume speaks for itself.
Yeah, man, we're the Pittsburgh Steelers.
We'd be here all day talking about the list of names at receiver. Man, it's just one of the positions the Steelers breed fantastically at. We're a wide receiver factory.
You could bring in anybody and they could turn into a freaking Pro Bowler.
So whatever they do at receiver, I totally have faith in this team to build that guy. But that could be via free agency. That could be via the draft. They showed some interest in some guys at wide receiver at the Senior Bowl. I'm sure they'll do the same for the Combine and Pro Days.
Yeah.
They love their day 2 receivers. It wouldn't surprise me if they build some of these pieces, these positions we've already talked about via free agency, and that gives them freedom, flexibility to go a receiver early.
And when it comes to the draft, wide receiver is another stacked position as well. And Colbert, since it's going to be his last season, why not get 1 more day 2 receiver?
It's a possibility. But receivers is definitely something secretly the Steelers got to focus on just because of the names we have that could be entering the free agency list and the fact we have nobody behind the 2 starters. And finally, guys, defensive line. Now, I don't know if Tuitt's coming back. No one knows.
There's been no update about Tuitt.
There has been 0 update whatsoever about Stephon Tuitt and where he's at, where his health's at, what he's thinking mentally. We all know what went down with him and his family. Still prayers to him.
Of course.
But he could retire. If he does not, I totally see the Steelers absolutely bringing him back. They'd be stupid not to bring him back if he does want to come back, but we don't know that. He could retire. He could be one of those cap casualties just because he wants to retire. We don't know what the future is for Stephon Tuitt. Whoever it is, I wish him the best of luck.
Of course.
We all do.
No doubt.
We all love Tuitt here.
But when Tuitt was not playing last year, the guy that stepped in was Chris Wormley, into which I feel like he had a pretty stellar year for somebody that wasn't supposed to start.
And let's say Tuitt does not return. I do trust Wormley.
I think Wormley proved himself that he's a fine starter. He's a very good starter.
He's a fine starter, but a great depth piece, honestly. So if he does have to start in again, I would trust Wormley if they have to. But we still need depth because our depth last year was atrocious. Now, if you look at it, what we're looking at so far, we could bring back a Montravius Adams. We're getting Alu back. So you're looking at Hayward, maybe Tuitt. If not, then Wormley, Alu, maybe Adams. We're getting the Davis twins. So our D-line depth looks better than it did last year if it remains fully healthy.
Yeah. If
it remains fully healthy. But you're also looking at that healthy factor because Tuitt, we don't know if he's coming back. If he does, he still has injury concerns. So does Alu. And he's going to be 35 years old, probably the last season of his career. So you need to focus on depth for sure. Whether that's the draft, free agency, you got to focus on depth primarily. I like what the D-line is looking at as of now if it remains fully healthy, but that's what you have to be very cautious about is the injuries with the guys we got and their history. So I'm focusing a lot on D-line depth. There's names out there I really like in free agency and definitely in the draft, but these are positions the Steelers for sure have to grab, have to boost up, have to fix. And Kevin Colbert's last offseason as Steelers GM.
And that's a lot of positions. Like I said earlier, the team isn't as stacked or as great as it once was a few years ago.
No, it's not.
So this time around, we got to take care of these positions. Now, it's going to be very hard to do it in year one, but that's just a glimpse of what we may have to deal with for a year or two. But it's definitely something that they have to take care of. They have to try to fulfill. They have to try to take care. And there may be some sacrifices to these positions, too. Maybe they put quarterback ahead of these other positions. Maybe they put another position ahead of another important position. I don't know. It really all depends on what the Steelers decide to do, who they think or who they like to bring in, and when it comes to draft time, who they want to get and who's on the board.
Time will tell, man. Time will tell with the pro days, with the combines, with free agency coming up in a month's time, man. It's an exciting time to be a Steelers fan and offseason just because the unknown is scary, but it's also a little exciting because it's Colbert's last offseason. What will he do? How much will he fix up? How much will he boost the team heading into a new era? I'm excited for it.
And I'm ready for it. I'm ready to see what they do. I'm ready to see how Colbert does in his final year.
So I'm looking very forward to see what Colbert does.
And how he builds up this team to more likely still be a competitive team into next regular season.
Right. And obviously setting the team up very, very nicely for whoever the next GM is. But these are positions the Steelers are going to have to worry about and focus on for sure. We'll see what they do. We'll see what they prioritize the most and who they bring in, who they draft. A lot of these positions, whatever they do in free agency, will tell the tale for the draft. So
without a doubt,
it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. I'm excited to see what they can do. Let us know your guys' thoughts down below. If there's any positions we might have missed that you want to add, definitely put it in the comments. Otherwise, we'll see you guys in the next video.
Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later.
Peace!